Mas Ariel from Universitas Atmajaya.
Yay!
Next, we have Dimas Rizky Mulya from Universitas Brawijaya. Kayak kereta ya?
Iya, benar. Ganti. Oke, apa?
Nggak tahu. Next. Benar gitu. We have Eliani from Universitas Tanjung Pura. Next, we have Gabediar from Universitas Diponegoro. Next, we gonna have Raka Wihanga from Universitas Sumatera Utara, which, by the way, one of the most performing N1 as well, or independent educator in this tournament. OSU. Nah, next, we have Melinda from Universitas Hasanuddin. Kenapa jadi chanting? Next, we gonna have Akbar Muhammad Rizky Akbar Lubis from Universitas Gajah Mada. UGM. Okay, next. Cukup. And we'll be chairing those beautiful panel will be Astri Agustina from Universitas Gajah Mada. Giving the floor to Basri to start the novice final as soon as possible, and best of luck for all.
Sorry, was waiting for recording in progress. Hi, hello, good day, good day, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction. Okay, thank you so much for the introduction, Hans. Very beautiful lineup of panel. First of all, before everything, I would like to congratulate both teams in the affirmative and the negative for proceeding to the grand final of Novice. And since this is grand final, I will allow each teams and each speakers to introduce themselves, making sure that you guys are acknowledged out of your very good achievement by proceeding into your Novice. IVED holds a very dear place into mine because it's the second classic I joined in, and I also championed. Don't ask which year. I will be identifying that I'm old. Let's go ahead, both teams, starting from the affirmative. Introduce yourself. Allow this opportunity to get yourself acknowledged, starting from the first affirmative, and go on.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Yehezkiel. My pronouns is he, him, and I am from UNPAD. I'm from Universitas Pajajaran, here as the first speaker of the affirmative team. It's nice to know you all. Hello.
Just go on, continue to second, third, and then the reply as well.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes. Go.
Okay. My name is Nisrina Radhika Syabani, and my pronouns are they, them. I'm from Universitas Pajajaran, and it's really nice to meet you all. Have a nice Sunday, everyone.
Hello everyone, I'm Gladys. I'm the third affirmative, and you can call me Glady. My pronouns is she, her, and it's nice debating with everyone today.
Thank you so much, UNPAD B in the affirmative. Can I confirm who will be doing the reply?
It's Radhika.
Okay, so Radhika will be second and reply. Thank you. Now can we go to the negative team? Hello, negative. Is UNILA here? Hello.
Check. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so let me introduce myself. My name is Marco Sialagan. My general pronouns is he or him. You guys, I'm from Universitas Lampung. Have a good debate, everyone.
Can we just go on to second and third and then identify who will be doing reply in the negative? Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Farrel. I'm from Universitas Lampung. I'm exactly from EEC, UNILA. Have a nice debate, everyone. Thank you. And by the way, the opposition part is first one is Aisyah, the second one is me, Farrel, and then the third one is Marco, and then the reply is going to be me again.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Aisyah, and I'm so sorry if you hear another like the song thingy because there's a party near my house. And yeah, I'm from Universitas Lampung, and exactly also I'm from the EEC team. And yeah, have a nice debate, everyone.
Thank you so much, both affirmative and negative for the introduction. It also means that they are accounted for. Now, just to do a little bit of housekeeping, I need to make sure all of my panels are here. I forgot to do the roll call. So, Icha, you here?
Here.
Ariel, you here?
Here.
Dimas, are you here?
Here.
Feli, are you here? Feliani? The Jewel of Borneo, are you here? Wah, Feliani. Okay, I'm a confirm with Feliani. In the meantime, Gabe, are you here?
Here, Mbak Astri.
Thank you so much. Raka, are you here?
Hadir, Mbak.
Okie dokie, thank you. Meilinda, are you here?
Here, Mbak.
Okay, nah yang paling ganteng, Akbar, are you here?
Here, Mbak.
Thank you so much. We'll just be waiting for Feliani. Pretty much you guys know, for the debaters, you guys know the drill. You guys have made it to the grand final. I will try to send out timestamp, but since I am writing on paper, so probably I'm going to like look down to my paper. So a little bit 3 seconds, 5 seconds late in timestamp. But I just would like to remind all the observers to do 2 things. Number 1, please never, ever unmute yourself under any circumstances, because the one who will be unmuting is the speaker speaking, or one of the judges, or one of the committee. So observers, please do be mindful. Second of all, please also for the observers to not send out anything on the chat box. The purpose of the chat box is only for time stamping. So thank you so much for the observers. Please do maintain the decorum. Can Feliani confirm if Feliani is here? Well, ooh, wait, let's wait for Feliani. No. Because, no. No. Okay, so Feliani is here. Without any further ado, under the first motion of social activists, let's welcome first affirmative to affirm the motion. Here.
Audible.
Yes, you are audible. You may start anytime you are ready.
Great. Just setting up my timer. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. As social activists, we of course want what's best for our community, right? We want transparency and development to our society. But looking at our status quo, we can see that what the government in general, for example, DPR has to offer is something that we as social activists is not something that we as social activists want, right? Which back again is a better law for the community. What we see in our status quo is that lawmakers are making it stagnant. Stagnant how? Well, looking at our status quo, know that us as a social activist has tried to criticize the government themselves, but there are no real solution or whatsoever that the government can offer, which then again only causes criticizing without any meaningful change. And if there is a change, it is only a tiny bit of the problem, which at the end of the day only become a deadlock. Also, we see that the government on how the government make those bills is somehow problematic. Why? Because we see that every time they publish a bills, they make it super long with lots of pages where people don't have time to read all of those, which at the end only make the people clueless, right? Now, we believe that rather than only giving critics to the government after the bills are made, which most of the times doesn't really get any response from them, we believe that it is better to criticize on how they make those bills. Because as we can see from our status quo, that those bills doesn't really answer the problem in our society. In fact, some of them even worsen the situation that we are in, right? Take omnibus law for an example. We know that omnibus law caused a lot of problems in the working field, right? We believe that by getting into the process, we can actually give a better understanding to the government about what the people want, and also we can know about how does the government would like to portray the society, so that we can give a better understanding to the majority, and so that both of the government and the majority can have an agreement regarding this matter. So why is our side of the house is better? What does our world look like, right? We would like to give criticism to the government on the making process. We think that this is better because we can give a better stance in the making process, which at the end of the day gives society better bills, meaning that we participate fully in the process, creating a more easily digestible content for the people, looking like discussion focusing on certain part of the bills first and then to another one by one, right? It is second of all, it is more effective because we give critics bits by bits, so that we can give a thorough checking and critics to the government regarding this matter. Also, we also demand participation of citizens in creating the bills, looking like it has to be accepted by more than 50% of the citizens before the law can pass and further. And last, meaning on our side of the house, our discourse will be divided one by one based on the current making of bill, as in comparison to a full blast on criticism after the bill embryo form has been created. So, onto my arguments. Who can increase discourse in the status quo, right? We can see that in the status quo, the biggest problem in Indonesia's social political condition is the lack of action. Even though a lot of protests and critics have been undergone in the status quo, let's take the most recent RKUHP issues. Citizens that truly care, which is Indonesian social activists, have been going criticizing the premarital law and also issue regarding the criticized to government. Yet, what we have seen that after 2 years of protests and getting criticized, no process has been taken, right? It starts from a year ago and nothing much has changed. This proves to you that at the end, protesting towards the result is not much use. Instead, we should put focus on a different perspective, which is the process in which the draft is created in the first place. Why is this likely to happen? One, from the recent G20 summit, we can see the government policy in trying to change for the better, making Indonesia a more lucrative place to be in. And in a world where democracy is highly emphasized at this time, if we shift the focus under the name of demanding transparency, and in the name of democracy, we're more likely to convince the government to heed to us and achieving change. Two, we are demanding transparency, but also accountability in the process. This is due to the fact that at the end, drafting bills such as RKUHP is a very tedious and long process, meaning the likelihood of having the government overturn their effort is highly likely likely. Imagine you work on a project for 3 months and someone asks you to change. It is highly likely for you to change your work. The idea applies to this case. Instead of changing what had already been done, we believe that focusing on the process makes advocacy much more easier. Looking like it's easier to change how an artist look like when you are participating in the creation rather than the result. 3. The same thing applies to people in Indonesia. We can say that all the political awareness is high in Indonesia. At the end, the amount is still far from enough to shake the government. Most likely, most people understand superficially of the result, but not the comprehensive result. Take this as an example. When we are in the making of RKUHP, we create the bill one at a time. For example, the creation of illegal premarital sex, and when we demand transparency, we can see that at the end, the discussion in those few days are going to be fully about that specific law, making it easier to downscale the information to people. Increasing the political discourse in comparison on the opposition was most likely going to happen is that, boom, a bunch of laws as thick as book appear while this course will still exist. However, the intention is then spread unevenly, making discourse only a certain aspect and other are minimized. Then when they could be potentially harmful too. Now, this is problematic because 1, discourse is only created when things went haywire, making it a bit late, and 2, discourse only happened at the end of bill creation, meaning the discourse will be minimal since people believe it's already fixed, and their discourse will only be heavily focused on certain highlight, making it easy for media to distort and even minimize the impact, which is not good for the discourse of people wanted by the social activists, right? And so now on to my second argument. Why is it going to create more participation? At the end, we must realize that while Indonesian political awareness is increasing, it is still far from enough. Most likely, the current discourse only looks like a chat at afternoon tea, where everyone disses the government and saying things like it's bad, but not actually doing any substantial action to change it. This is caused by several reasoning. 1, it's a bit deep for people to understand. Most likely, our understanding comes from the media portrayal and bite-sized analysis, or even article from news, from news. Such news most likely exaggerate the content and highlight certain things. Opposition may say such things is enough, but we say that it's far from the participation we wanted. We say that at the end, we want the citizen to understand clearly the process of each law, and the way we popularize it is by creating section, making sure that each citizen have understanding of one's law, because at the end, such law are created for them. When they are able to participate in the process of billing, they are able to slowly absorb the law created. For example, this week it will be creating law regarding freedom to criticize government, and next week is to understand the economy, and etc. It makes things easier and make politics a part of thing we talk about. And when we finalize the law, it's easier for the people to realize whether the government actually do take the action according to the law. In comparison, when you throw all the bills at once, it makes it harder for the people to digest, right? We can actually see this as studying. When you study something, you divide the book into chapter and section, which make you understand the whole thing better, as in comparison to, boom, memorizing a book all at once. 2, it is more acceptable for the government to accept your participation at the start rather than at the end. We believe that it is more realistic to ask for participation, because at the end, it increases understanding between government and citizen. We can see that although we can say that Indonesia government is pretty bad, they aren't complete yet bad. Seeing as there are still some good law in the bill, and the reason RKUHP, meaning that at the end, for a healthy discourse to happen, it must not be one-sided criticism to the government. Instead, we must also enter the hope-making process, creating understanding that's also not easy for the government to create bill. It is tedious, and patience and understanding should be made in comparison. When you criticize one-sidedly, a lot of people immediately demonize the government and create distrust between the government that at the end failed to make communication better. And instead create misunderstanding between one another. The best thing to do is to understand the government are at the end human with mistake and goods, meaning that only with communicating in process so we can understand them and correct them. That's why we are proud to propose. Thank you.
I thank the first affirmative for that fine affirmation. Now to negate the motion, inviting first negative.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So wait a minute. I'm so sorry again about the music behind. And I will start. My gender pronoun is she or her, and I will start this speech in 3, 2, 1. So look at you. Society is really huge. they are saying that the law will only apply the moment it is voted or agreed by 50% of the society or citizens, right? Therefore, it is super unlikely for them to fly a new drafting bills because it just gonna take a long time, especially for example, like they are just gonna adopt the previous law, and meaning that this will not change anything at the end of the day. What is missing under the government side is the first one is the characterization. This don't characterize more what about the government, yada yada yada, and also they only talking about their best cast, and also no likelihood as to why the discussion is going to be accessibility for society. So several characterization of the DPR. So the first one is they're coming from several political parties which has different interests, and this second one is they are discussing this drafting bills by measuring the impact to the society, of course. And the third one is they're likely to desire to get elected in the next election. And the fourth one, there already has a check and balance coming from their internalities to begin with. And the fifth one, their drafting process has already been broadcast to the masses through television or other media. Those characteristics indicate that there's gonna be a proper drafting bills accountability coming from the DPR itself, right? Because they want to prove to society that they are worth. So another characterization towards what people or the society needs in the first place. So the first one is they need an impactful outcome coming from the drafting bills or DPR. The second, they sometimes don't understand, don't know, or at least having less knowledge regarding the drafting process to begin with, right? Therefore, the drafting process can only be understood by the social activists and leaving the society behind because they don't even understand what is the missing point of the drafting process in the first place, right? And the third one is they are just wanting their life to be better and their environment to be amazing, right? Therefore, they are output oriented, meaning that they are only focusing on the content. Look at you. The moment the social activist is only criticizing the drafting process, the discussion towards and drafting bills itself is gonna be accessible to a certain group itself. Look, before jumping to my argument, I like to characterize as to how are we gonna criticize it. The first one is we're gonna have an active discussion regarding the problematic content such as the billing of hoarding and many more. Second one is we're gonna tell the society of the problematic content that is being criticized by the social activists. And the third one is socialization towards the problematic content and how we can give solution and the improvement. So rebuttal toward the opening government. The first one is they brought the cast to strengthen their side of the house as their best guest to defend the bad process of Indonesia bill's topic is RKUHP, which they claim didn't have any impact for the society. I think this is really unfair because if you take a look at other casts like RUU PKS, which protecting women from sexual assault, protecting victims of sexual assault, and etc., RUU PKS can gain consensus participation and attention from the society, and the moment it is finalized, becoming undang-undang, the society feels victory and it debunked their statement that the content of bills have less impact for the society. Second, they stated that criticizing the process can create more participants. I think the better concept to gain participant in terms of bills topic is whether the content of the bills is profitable for your interest or profitable for your movement. I mean, if you pay attention and have profiting in business topics that DPR is discussed in the government bills, the movement, the content is deemed to be problematic, and in status quo there is social activist that critics about that. Then your nature of attention will likely lean towards the social activist, right? Because you will likely to feel that your profit being protected by such party, and your nature is for at least giving attention toward and later participated. So do we know that the DPR would not make a drafting bills that will burden the society at the end of the day, right? And also the social activists need to also cross-check the drafting bills content before you get and also they need the DPR need to also cross-check the drafting bills content before you get the approval to the president, right? The moment when the society criticize the problematic bills content, it will ensure the society's welfare at the end of the day. Why it can be happen? We need to understand first the concept, the DPR or the concept draft aim to solve problem that occur in society and they want to have a change in a better way, right? Compared if they didn't complain about the problems, compare if the society didn't complain about the problem, that it can to another problem at the end of the day. Here are what the society activists want to achieve after try to criticize. The first one is they want there is a change in society in a better way. The second one is they want to if the draft content of the stat, but if the draft content is it is about the stat budgeting and extra, they want a fair distribution for that, and also the government needs to use the stat budget properly. So now come to why the government, especially the DPR, need to be focused on getting the best outcome of the bill's content rather than the process. The biggest reason, if you look at the society perspective, the society will only be concerned with the output, because the output they will feel the output, right, inside the process. They don't really care about the process because they don't really understand about the whole process that they better have done, right. But we come to the perspective of the council itself, why they need to more concern to the content. So the first one is, look at you, we need to know their concern of making a good bill. So the thing is, the core thing is they want to leave the good legacy, right. And why the legacy is so important for them, because most of them are willing to be elected again in the next term. And how to get elected again? Of course, by giving them all their best to attract the society, right? And that is why the output of drafting bills is that important for every party, both the society or the council itself. So the second one is, we are not blinding our eyes if the process fast is also important. But again, if the society, if the social activists not actively criticize if the social activists not actively criticize, they probably criticize the output of the draft itself. They probably will still do their, but I mean, like, if the social activists not actively criticize about the process being, they probably will still do their best, right? And if the drafting has a problem, society still don't have a right to do the protest, right? Compare when we complain on the content, it will likely easier for us to change the problematic one, because we have known exactly what the content is and yada yada. Because you can see from the status quo right now, most of the social activists do the demonstrate after the output have come, right? So welcome to my argument about why is just criticizing the content of the bills enough, and why the output is more important than the process. So in the status quo right now, there is the transparency in drafting bills process for the nation government, like plenary meetings is being live streamed in every platform, in several platforms like YouTube, television, and etc. Even the president members of the representative is being covered by the media. And yes, it is actually very accessible, but the problem is here in our status quo, most of Indonesian people don't have the ability to comprehend with governance topics like bills, for example, the work right, the work field laws, and the protection of women, and the official laws, the ITE laws, and etc. Why is criticizing bills under our side of the house considered educating society? The first one is the information content in our critics code inform and educate society. For example, in our critics, there are some explanation from governance, social, philosophical point of view. And the second one is the critics are openly accessible for everyone. For example, like social activists have their own platform, such as social media discussion in university or even demonstration. And the third one is the interest is for the progressivity of society. So that is one of the interests for social, for social activists is they want to have some kind of change in society, progressing from problems toward better condition in terms of social progressions. The problem is here, the topic of the Indonesian representative institution is kind of...
It's almost 9.
Okay, I'm so proud to
I thank the first negative for that fine remark. Now to continue to affirm, inviting second affirmative.
I'm here. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. My name is Radhika, and I go by they, them, and I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Now, judges and panels, I will be doing some rebuttals before going to my arguments. Now, our side of the house are more. We believe that as a social activist, as an Indonesian social activist, should focus on criticizing the drafting process of bills rather than just taking attention to the actual laws that have been published. So our rebuttals are, we do not, the opposition side of the house said that there are citizens that do not understand what's going on in the drafting process. This is why we want to pursue that we take more attentive in the drafting process, because we never know the reason, the meaning behind these laws that sometimes we don't get the enough comprehension to understand it. And our solution gives a sort of like a choices for the people, the citizens, that to understand more the reasoning behind certain laws, so they have a better context, a better understanding that has been stated by my first speaker. And then the opposition failed to give a solution about how are they going to make sure that the majority of people, the citizens, can also take part of making the bills, because back again, know that those bills are made to be implemented on the society, to the country that they are living in. So we see that our way could ensure more transparency to the people, to the citizen of the of Indonesia, and also creating participation from the people, like my first speaker has said. And the bill's impact is so much that it was stated by the opposition side of the house that the bill's impact is so they give impact to the society, to the Indonesian citizens, that we need to participate in being attentive towards the drafting process. So, and one sentence that could describe this motion today is, does the end justify the means? Now, going to my arguments, the general ideas is the government has a small responsibility known to the public, any government, specifically Indonesia, that they are obligated to protect their citizens at all costs. This is including their rights to do stops in the country, the consequences of violations in law, protecting those who need to be protected by the laws, and etc. This needs mutual understanding. Why? Knowing that Indonesia is very diverse in a lot of subjects, such as ethnicity, racial beliefs, understanding of certain ideas. And these diversity leads to a very wide spectrum, and starting from the most conservative ones to the ones who are the complete opposite, which means those people have different needs and different views as the result of difference of their source, where they're coming from, the environment that affecting them as a person. And government often overlook this and create a misunderstanding between government and citizens. Our goal is to make both parties to meet a middle ground where everyone are mostly pleased, knowing that there's no perfect world where everyone gets what they want. But our side of the house gives a better environment between the political discourse also would be happiness in our side of the house, because we give a platform, we give a transparency, we give a choice to every citizens, not excluding anybody. We're very exclusive to participate on making the bills, to take attention to the drafting process of these laws that could be most likely to be implemented to our country, to the country of its people. It is very hypocrite to our beliefs, our form of a country, which is a democratic country. So by giving less right to citizens to participate, it's most likely disrespect to the label of our country, which is very democratic. We must care about the citizens' needs. We must listen to their voices. Therefore, activists has this trait where they are much prone to understand a problem, right, going on in the country. I'm not saying that they are more powerful than citizens, because we have the same power, we have the same voice. Knowing this, we have to encourage people to be clear about their needs. We need to be aware that we need more transparency in the drafting process. The citizens are more informed of the reasoning of certain law that might be occurring in the future. And as stated by my first speaker, process can, when we participate in the drafting process, we can still change or make a little tweaks to those future law, and we can discuss it better when it's still in process, by step, that it's more likely to be changed rather than criticizing on the bills that are already published by the government. This will not be resulting in a good manner compared to our side of the house. By taking part of making bills contents, by telling the government during the drafting process, we actually show our participations clearly, more transparent. That is supposed to actually most happens in a democratic country. And our side of the house create a better environment in the country in the long run. Why? Because knowing that the citizen feels like they are being the government, see them, the government hear them, that they are supposed to that these delegacies needs to hear the citizens' voices, their needs, so they feel included. They feel like they are part of this country, because being a democratic country, that they have a voice, they have rights to be heard. So by giving them a transparency on the drafting process, actually gives them a sort of an action to be involved on creating a better environment of the place that they are living in. And as activists, we really encourage to this transparency on during a drafting process, because this could benefit both parties, in this case the citizens and also the government. The government would understand the citizens even better, what are their needs, knowing that there are so many ideas in the citizens, and they somehow needs to know the middle ground, which or what kind of law that could protect most of the citizens, like their responsibility in, and also the citizens have a sort of choice. They're actually voicing their needs to the government, that like they should to. And this would create a better and mutual understanding between them, and in the long run this could create a better country and better law, and basically a better dynamic in the country itself. And therefore I'm proud to propose this motion.
I thank the second affirmative for that fine affirmation. Now to continue the case coming from negative, inviting second negative. Hi, hello, second negative. Are you there? Gang's eye is audible.
Sorry,
okay.
Sorry, Judge. My second speaker is having connection problems. Can we have 5 minutes or
probably 3? Yeah.
Three. Okay.
Let's try 3.
I'm here. I'm sorry for that. I was just disconnected.
Okay.
My internet connection is quite at the moment. Okay, so I'm sorry. Setting myself first. It's 9 o'clock. Okay, my gender pronunciation. Okay, I'm just going to start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Look at you. Well, this debate is really tight and really specific about the Indonesian government, right? So I think like there's some stuff like a thing that is lacking on the government side of the house. What they're lacking is first they never engage to our case stating. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Hold on.
Right. Okay. Well.
Can you repeat? Can you restart? Sorry, I suddenly stepped on the cats, but no cat is being harmed. I'm so super sorry, guys. Go on.
Okay, well, it's fine. Okay, so I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are audible, and you are free to restart because it's just 20 seconds into your speech, so just restart. I'm sorry, everyone.
Okay. Restarting my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Well, this debate is already narrow and tight in this by the characterization of the opening government, right? The opening government is really just glorifying about the discussion about the accessibility and yada yada yada. But I'm going to challenge that and my argument later on. Okay, so what's missing on the government side of the house? First, they never even engaged to our case, stating that it's just going to take a longer time the moment they are kind of like wanting all the participants participating from the society in the very first place, right? How is it okay? How is it going to create a new law that is really ideal and yada yada in the first place, right? How is it going to satisfy all the all layers of the society in the first place? They never even tell you about that kind of thing, right? Second of all, they never even tell you why the overwhelming situation is just going to be happening in our side of the house. They never even tell you why is it still going to be. They never even tell you why is it not going to be happening in their side. The moment there is some sort of like lots of individuals, lots of ideas, lots of interest, and so many more, right? So therefore, the overwhelming situation is just going to be happening in both sides of the house. The delta is here is that in our side of the house, the overwhelming situation is just going to be overcome by the existence of the community in the first place, right? And I'll tell you that in my rebuttal later on. And then first of all, they never even tell you how are they going to criticize it. How are they going to likely to just be vocal about every single thing? The moment the society is less likely to be able to engage to the to those kind of like high level and education education in the first place, right? And first of all, they never even tell you that why the voice is why having a voice is just going to be exclusively happening in their side of the house. The moment the moment we criticize the content itself, it already shows you that we have a voice as well. We have the same amount of voice that they have. So therefore, it is still symmetrically happening in both sides of the house, right? So therefore, all the argument coming from the second speaker of the government side of the house is really full this debate, right? Okay, so coming to my rebuttals. Okay, so the first speaker has already told you, the first speaker of government side of the house has already told you about the loss of content that is going to be overwhelming the situation of the society in our side of the house. But I can let you know, this is not true at all. Because of what? Because first we have the organization. It is the community is really fractured and it's really divided into so many pieces, right? Like there's some sort of like a organization for women, there's an organization for a gender and yada yada and religion and yada yada in the first place, right? So therefore, the moment there is some sort of like a law imposed by government, it is going to the society could just deep digest into their interest. There is some sort of like they could understand better in this case because of that, because now they're just more focused on their interest in the first place, right? They're not going to cover their another topic, another interest, and yada yada in the first place, right? So therefore, the confusion is not going to be happening in our side of the house. And then second of all, it is not going to be so overwhelming. The moment we have you know, like some sort of like a choice to begin with, right? It means like the moment we as a society have a choice, meaning that we already know about the current law that they're imposing, and we already know how to criticize it, and we already know how to create a solution and yada yada in the first place, right? So therefore, it is going to be okay. The moment there's some sort of like a book of law like being applied in the society in the first place, right? Because the society is fractured, the society has different interests, the society has different background, and the society could deep digest more into those kind of situation in the very first place. Even if yes, it is going to be so overwhelming in our side of the house, I think it's still going to be okay because of what? Because now the organization is still going to be more active to discuss about this whole situation because of what? Because they have their interest. Unlike in their side of the house, the organization is not going to be so active the moment there's some sort of like a check and there's some sort of like an transparency in the process only, right? Because in the process only, the social activities only could access this kind of high education level, right? Because the society could there's some sort of like a society, there's some sort of like a layer of the society who couldn't access this whole information in the first place. Coming to my argument, and there's a lot of rebuttals and so on in this argument. So why by criticizing the content of the bills is this going to create a bigger impact towards the society? Look, Eju, as my first speaker has already told you about all the characterizations towards society desire, needs, and DPR desire, needs, and yada yada yada, it is going to be better in our side of the house and more significant moment we're just criticizing the content of the bill itself. Three impacts. First, there's going to be a better discussion. How is it likely to happen? First, what kind of discussion are we going to pursue in this debate? The discussion that we're going to pursue is that discussion towards the law itself, towards how impactful and how significant the law itself is going to create to be made in this at the end of the day, right? How the moment we're kind of like having some sort of like a new law happening and their content is obviously going to be criticized, there's some sort of like a curiosity in the mindset of the society itself. Like, okay, so the new law has imposed, so the content is just A, B, C, and D, right? So the content itself is going to show you how the process is going to be look like, right? So therefore, it's just going to be better the moment we're just going to criticize the content itself. Because of what? Because there's some sort of like a better picturization of what is the realization is going to be like, right? So therefore, the discussion is going to be more active the moment we're having some sort of like better picturization of the content itself, right? The moment, unlike in their side of the house, the moment they're kind of like criticizing the process, I don't know how they're going to criticize it. It is going to create some sort of like a lot of discussion, like a really I don't know, like complex discussion, which could end up with nothing at all at the end of the day, right? Discussion is not going to be so impactful and so significant at the end of the day because of what? Because they're discussing about the whole layer of the society, one Indonesia, for example, right? So therefore, the discussion is just going to be better in our side of the house because we're just going to, like create some sort of like a bit discussion in Mata Najwa, for example, about the content of the law itself, right? Therefore, the content of the law itself is going to be more impactful and more okay in our side of the house. Okay, so second of all, better realization, right? So better realization is going to be happening in our side of the house because of what? Because now we're going to be more focused on the content itself, right? So the moment we find something problematic on the content itself, we're going to be vocal about it, right? So therefore, the moment there's something that is quite missing and fishy and likely to be suffocating and the society, is it going to be us demanding the changing and in the realization in the first place, right? The worst case scenario that is happening in our side of the house is the omnibus law, right? The first, because I already told you about this kind of situation. But look at you about omnibus law. This is all about this information and hoax and so on and so forth, right? So this is what exactly why we need to just criticize the content itself. So therefore the hoax and the disinformation is just going to be prevented at the end of the day. How are we going to prevent this kind of situation? First, there's going to be some sort of like a conference, press conference, and so on and so forth regarding about this whole solution, about this whole law in the first place, right? So therefore, there's going to be clarification coming from the president. There's a clarification coming from the DPR in the first place. There's also a discussion on the Mata Najwa and so many other media and the very first one, right? So therefore, this information is not going to be happening in any ways possible, right? And then third of all, it's better development. Look, the moment we're not really criticizing the process, it means like the dynamic of the policy making itself is going to be happening in any way possible, right? So therefore, the moment they're criticizing the process, that is just going to slow down the process, right? It is going to create some sort of like a process of never-ending policy making. So therefore, the dynamic is still questionable in their side of the house. What's the manifestation of this debate? First, we want our society to be protected. Look, the moment we're talking about this whole situation, there's some sort of like a minority, right? The minority is not going to be protected at the end of the day in their side of the house because of what? Because the minority have less voice in this participation. Very process opposite situation. Thank you.
I thank the second negative for that very fine negation. Now to close the substantive coming from affirmative, inviting third affirmative.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. A bit noisy in the background, though. Can you?
Is it clearer now?
Yes, yes.
All right. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. The biggest problem in opposition is that they believe that democracy can be upheld without the participation of citizens, by everyone, and not just the people that actually do care, like the people that advocate for it itself, right? Because it is hard to create participant that does not care about participant itself. Their whole stance is basically putting a blindfold over problems in Indonesia. It is their notion of conceding defeat that is impossible to make people to actually care about the democracy. That's why Indonesia is currently in this stagnant situation, right? That the fact that they concede to the fact that Indonesia is unsolvable is simply impossible to ask people to actually care about the people itself. It's simply easier to ask to just focus on the social activists and ask them to be the one who's advocating for the country, right? They fail to understand that for a country to improve in the first place, we have to increase the participation from all the country, right? And this does not include the social activists itself. And the purpose of this debate itself is to how to ask the social activists you can actually increase the participation of people and actually convince people to actually participate in the political discourse itself, right? It's exactly because of their stance of giving up that simply it is impossible for us to ask people to participate. That's why we should just give up and focus on the social activists. That's why Indonesia is always stagnant, right? There's only these people that actually truly care about the politics, as in comparison to actually think about how to increase the participation and actually make people truly care about the political discourse itself. But several questions that they still fail to answer in this debate till now, right? First, how to resolve the house then is the government are going to be able to overturn their bills, right? Because we still fail to see any analysis of likelihood as to how they're going to convince their government, right? Simply criticizing is not going to happen because we already see this criticize have already happened, right? For example, the omnibus law, the RKUHP, we've already been criticizing it since the past year, but what we see, right? The RKUHP is still there and little to no change are actually being made. Method, right? How do they actually incentivize people to actually care about politics, right? We can see a lot of mechanism coming from just the house on how they're going to create conference. People are going to explain about what's going to happen, right? But the question is still there, right? How are they going to incentivize people to actually enter this conference and actually care about it when in the status quo they already concede that the people actually do not want to care about the status quo because they fail to understand, and it's really tedious for us to understand participation itself. So the question of how their whole case can actually run when the participation is actually zero and the only one who care are still at the end of the day social activists are the minority, and this is not going to happen simply because democracy advocates on the majority voice itself. But two questions on this debate, right? Who can create a healthy political discourse and accountability? But second, who can create a grow Indonesia into a better, more transparent and accountable democracy itself? First of all, who can create a healthy political discourse and accountability, right? What do they try to argue? They try to argue to us about how check and balance or the access in status quo, right? We already proved to you on how this is not true at all. You can already see that they fail to engage with the idea that in the current status quo, it is simply impossible for a check and balance and democracy to happen when it's already that problematic, right? You can see that the Indonesian government do not really listen to the critics happening at all, taking the example of RKUHP that's happening in the status quo, right? The fact that, for example, premarital sex that are actually illegal are being criticized by the government still heavily do imply that it was still going to be happening in status quo, proves that to you that check and balance in the status quo is simply not enough, and we have to do something more other than criticizing to actually make things happen, right? The standard principles still apply, right? It's simply hard for you to convince the government to change something that they already settled on and they already believe that it is correct and they're going to apply it, right? It's easier for you to actually interfere and actually ask them for your criticize to actually happen when you actually interfere them in the process of the making, as in comparison when something is already nailed to the board and already fixed, right? Second, we fail to see on how on the house the analysis as to why government will do as they say, right? Because you criticize the government are going to change, right? So this is a very topic idea coming from the house, right? When we already prove the status quo is otherwise, right? The mechanism cannot simply say the mechanism exists and simply the mechanism can work, right? They still need to prove to us as to how their mechanism can work as a whole, right? But if they're typically want to explain this story too late in the debate. But third, let's test the best case, right? Even if it does work, right? We said that our stance still stand, right? Because even in the best case, it does magically work. People actually do participate. Discourse will still only happen after the output. Meaning that on their side of the house, the discourse will only spike after the output is created. Meaning that most of the time, in their side of the house, discourse in political side, their awareness in political issues are still going to be stagnant, right? Meaning that you are only going to care when the RKUHP is there, right? Meaning that the bad habit of Indonesia people, which is only caring about it when it's already at the end of the time, will only happen on their side of the house, right? Meaning that they're not going to increase any discourse at all or political awareness, but only asserting the status quo as it is when it is so problematic, right? But B, society understanding and interest in political participation will still stay stagnant simply because they do not participate in the process. They still think that political discourse is a hard thing. We do not make it easier for them to understand. In comparison, what did the government prove to you, right? And the government, if their opposition concern to our government side is that the citizen already care about output, we said that the question here is not whether the output or the process is important, because at the end of the day, the output is created by the process, right? The question here is actually on whether the people are actually easier to interfere, easier to understand in the output or the process itself, right? We've already proven to you that it's easier for you to understand the political discourse, making it easier for the people to actually participate in the political discourse when we actually participate in the process, because in the process, it happens step by step, right? You make one law one by one, and in the output itself, the whole law itself is simply put to you, right? It simply acts as a huge thick book, right? It's simply hard for the people to understand and only affirm the current notion in status quo that political discourse is extremely hard, so let's not care about it and just leave it to the government, right? In comparison, on our side of the house, we make it easier for the people to digest and downstill the information, right? Meaning on our side of the house, we're going to change the notion of people believing that political discourse is hard because they can understand it step by step, that it's not just that easy. While it looks complex, when you cut it down into parts by parts, it's easier to understand, right? But second, even if the output is that important, we said that on this side of the house, everything is already done there, right? No matter how important the output and how you try to criticize it, at the end of the day, the likelihood of them changing anything is simply close to zero. But on the other side of the house, we believe that output is important, and exactly because output is important, we put much more emphasis in the process of creating the output itself that actually determine the result itself. And also the house, it is simply because we simplify it and make it easier so you can actually increase the discourse. Meaning that on our side of the house, discourse actually happen throughout the whole time that people are actually discussing the RKUHP, right? But if their second concern is that it might take a longer time, we say that this is perfectly okay, right? The process of creating the bills itself is long enough itself. Meaning that the law is something that affects the hundred of million. If the price of that is to actually take a longer time, we say it's completely worth it simply because at the end, the effect affects a lot of people, and it's much more worse if you actually do it very hastily and end up with a law that's not satisfiable, right? But B, at the end of the end, if our side is the worst case scenario, it's still better, right? Because A, discourse happened throughout the long long time, right? Meaning that the people are going to gain more awareness as to how the whole thing happened, right? They're not going to think that it's going to be that hard simply because it's easier for them to digest because they follow it step by step, right? As in comparison to accepting all as a huge amount of book. But second, they participate in the process, meaning that they're much more willing, right? We breed the habit to them that they are actually going to care about the political discourse. The tipping point in this clash then is that who can actually make this tedious process much more digestible, which is us, right? Because we section it one by one. But second, who can actually create discourse and awareness, right? On their side, the only discourse will happen and it will only spike after the output as comparison to us because it takes quite a long time, meaning that during those months in the creation of the RKUP itself, discourse will still happen steadily at all, meaning the others of the house political awareness are still going to happen, meaning the tipping point we win on this clash. But second, who can actually grow Indonesia to better democracy, right? We said the others of the house always see until now only mechanism with no analysis as to how the mechanism will work at all, right? Others of the house, no matter how much conferencing and socialization, when you don't make it easier to understand for people, you only speak about professional term, about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then not explaining to the people and letting them participate. At the end of the day, they cannot ask people to actually grow democracy, right? The core meaning of democracy itself is the participation of the people itself, and we care about that, and exactly because of that, we increase the process in which you can actually participate in the democracy itself, which is increasing the participation by making it much more easier for them to understand. You are making this law, and the reason you make this law is by A, B, C, D, right? This is much more easy digestible because it's something that they understand. As a person did the result house, they only create an output which is full of professional terms, right? So we can actually increase the participation and the democracy and the transparency. It is us who have won this debate. So proud to propose.
I thank the third affirmative for that fine affirmation. Now to close the substantive coming from the negative team and as well as the substantive of the whole debate, inviting third negative.
Check, am I audible?
Yes, you are third negative.
Okay, so to close my my bench house statement, I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. What the affirmative like of? Firstly, they never prove to you the moment society critical enough about the process of DPR bills, then the society will have a better understanding on what is actually the impact of the governmental bills the moment the content is being approved and implemented. I mean, yes, okay, the process of bills critics that come from social activists that from your side of the house is educating enough for the society, but how do you educate them the impact of the bill itself, the subject, the object of the bill itself? Yes, our society know the process on making or discussing the bills that conducted by DPR, but that bills that will be implemented later, will our society know what exactly the trade-offs, the consequences that come from the bills? Secondly, they never prove to you the protection for the society the moment there is a less problematic DPR bills, but at the end of the day, the bill's content is problematic the moment it implemented for the society. Like, okay, the less problematic bills process are all criticized by your side of the house, but what happened the moment there is a bill that passed the process of your criticizing system, but the content itself kind of problematic? The process and the contents of bills themselves are two different substantive that DPR themselves should conducted plenary meetings in discussing it. Thirdly, they're telling you that it's okay that the output of the bills itself took a longer time, yet they did not consider, they forget that DPR time is limited, that like in accepting or discussing bills for Indonesia government, DPR needs kind of a year for them to discuss it, to conflict it, they will accept it or not. And then the DPR itself have sort of 5 years period in the office, so therefore this whole situation will likely to fly at the end of the day. For the last one, they never told to you what is the mechanization that they're going to use in criticizing the process. Are they gonna utilizing Zoom meeting for 100 millions of people? No, right? And then, so moving on towards my question in this debate. So they stated that criticizing the process of bills will likely bring more participants. It will gain more impacts and so on and so forth. No, things that incentivize people to participate in criticizing DPR's bills or even paying attention towards the bill itself is the profits or the interest that the bills carry, and it is at the content of the bills rather than the process. The profits, the topics, and the interest is tangibly stated the moment the bill is considered as implicated laws or and regulation. Even if the process could gain participation from the society, it will likely short term or not really sustainable. What I mean here, the participation will likely to happen just this kind of where the process is still quote unquote trending. But the moment the output of the bills producing the participants, they just to pull out their attention out of it. They do not want to participate anymore because it does because they just know the trendings, they just know the process, but rather than they did not generally know about the impacts and the output from the bills itself. Worst case scenario that may happen under the side of the house, the moment the process is kind of disappointing their participant, the disappointed will become the opposition of the social activists, conduct another demonstration because the misinformation of the impact of the bills, which is very harmful for the society, and the progressivity of Indonesia will be stagnant at the end of the day. Compared to our side of the house, the moment society participating in the content itself, they concern about the impacts, the profits, and the interest carried by the bills. Although the participation is kind of less in number than affirmative, it is still okay under the outside of the house because people will have the nature to keep their interests, their profits, and so the participation have a better and longer sustainability compared to the rest of the house. Worst case under our side of the house, the moment our society is pointed about the impact of the bill itself, whether in execution there are some misunderstanding or so on and so forth, having the least amount of efforts that in the earlier expectation given the profits, but the impact, the result, the output of the bills is already clear and tangible. So it is still okay for them because at least the substantive of the bill itself can give the profits or in line with the interest of the society. So the improvement will likely under the execution rather than in the content of the in the contents of the bills itself that are likely to happen in the other institution. So at least our society have better hope in our democracy. So it can giving a better social impacts and the social trust that coming from society towards our government. And then the manifestation that the disappointed party that coming from the side of the house, the moment it happened, they are less likely to challenge the imposed regulation the moment it doesn't profit them at all. Very proud to oppose this debate. Thank you.
I think the third negative for that very fine negation. Now to open the reply part of the debate, inviting negative reply.
Check, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I'm just going to start my reply in 3, 2, and 1. Look at you in this debate. What we want, what the society of Indonesia is really needed is the impact of the content itself, right? The manifestation of the impact of the content itself is really the one that is going to be so significant and going to be so important, right? So therefore, in this debate, the team who can win this debate is that the one who can prove to you that the manifestation of the content of the content itself is going to be so impactful towards the society, right? So okay, so what's missing on the government side of the house? First, they never even tell you how the mechanization is going to be look like in their side of the house. This is exactly why we're kind of like confusing us to how to respond to their mechanization in the first place, right? This is exactly why the mechanization is still opaque to begin with. They never even tell you, is it going to be like Zoom through Zoom like for 100 million people, or is it going to be like them participating and voting and yada yada yada, or what? How is it going to be look like in the first place, right? Assuming that it is going to be so it is going to be like a voting system, they never even tell you how is it going to be so how is it going to satisfy all the layers of the society in the first place, right? So therefore, the worst case scenario coming from the government side of the house cannot fly in this debate because of what? Because first, they cannot really satisfy those all layers of the society. Second, they're taking a longer time without considering the DPR time of period in the field, in the job. And then third, they never even tell you that the dynamic of the policy making is just going to be better in their side, right? Okay, so coming to my what's the other missing point of the government side of the house? Second of all, they never even tell you that the output the criticizing and that they're having and in the process itself is going to create the output itself, right? And a better output. How is it likely to happen? How is it going to be better the moment we just criticize the content and yada yada yada? They try to challenge our stance by saying that like the moment there's some sort of like a new law imposed, it's hard for us to just challenge the new law itself, right? Well, I cannot like no. My first speaker has already told you that there is some sort of like a commission judicial and yada 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 to just prevent them to just cancel the law and yada yada in the first place, right? So coming to the classes, three classes. First about a discussion, second about the development, and then third of all about the dynamic changing of the policy making, right? First about the discussion. The better discussion is going to be happening in our side of the house because of what? Because first we've already proven to you that the discussion is going to be so impactful the moment we're just discussing about the content itself in the first place, right? Why? First, the discussion is going to be to all our society, to all fractured community and yada yada in first place, right? So therefore, the society itself can put their own interests on top of it, right? The moment they're not having this content oriented, they're just going to be so confused about the policy making and yada yada, resulting in them being exhausted about the overwhelming situation that they're facing in the moment, right? So therefore, the discussion is going to be fly in our side of the house, and also this discussion is going to be so deeper in our side of the house because of what? Because the discussion is going to be happening in the community itself. In the community, the discussion is going to be better because of what? Because the community itself has set the target, has set the thing that they want to achieve in the future, right? And then second of all, about the realization, the realization is going to be better in outside house because of what? Because the content itself is the one who needs to be realized, right? Not the process of making it, right? So therefore, the realization is going to be achieved in our side of the house the moment the content itself is being criticized and being overcome with by the society in the first place, right? Third of all, about the development, about the policy making, policy making is going to be dynamic in our side of the house the moment there are not a lot of ideas coming to the process of making it, right? So therefore, the dynamic of it is just going to be better. So therefore, we can project more of people. Like the moment there's an omnibus law, there's an RUU PKS and yada, they could happen at the same time, right? So therefore, those kind of things are just going to be better in our side of the house. Proud to oppose this session. Thank you.
I thank the negative reply for that fine speech, and now to close the reply part and also the debate as a whole, inviting affirmative reply.
Here, okay, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1 to close the debate. As an affirmative reply speaker, I would say that opposition has already lost the debate under 3 reasons. First, the whole idea can only run when people are politically educated, which is a paradox since they conceded that Indonesian citizens do not care, meaning their whole people criticize, participate in conference are simply utopic imagination. Second, they never engage with the idea that people find it hard to engage with political issues because the output is too much for them to handle. It's overwhelming them to just read the entire result of it without knowing the drafting process of it. How then they are going to magically make people understand the whole output, because notice output can only be criticized when you understand it, when the citizens on their side don't care. And third, no reason how the only thing they can attack on our side, oh, they don't have a clear mechanism. We say that they simply pretend that they didn't hear my prime minister's speech. Our mechanism is simply to make sure people's participation in the process, meaning we cut down the process and downscale it to the people bit by bit. Now, the burden of today's debate are effective on tackling to the core problem in Indonesia, which is transparency and the healthy, and which side of the house would create a much healthier political environment. Now, their side of the house, they fail to prove how is the impact going to happen like in the society, knowing that they are only criticizing when it already been released rather than criticize it since the beginning when the drafting process is occurring. I can see that the people on our side will actually understand it better, meaning even if all fails, political discourse is much more better. And similarly, it also means that the citizens understand it better as to how to use political tools to leverage against the government as opposed to use brute protest. They have a higher understanding as to how to utilize political tools, meaning that our side have a higher likelihood in creating change, because we now have educated citizens and not unaware and easily manipulated by the government itself. Even if their side of their side do create participation, the question is the burden that is still unanswered. One, why will the government concede to them when we already prove ours will, because it is easier to convince them in the process, but also because we are arming citizens with political knowledge to leverage government. And second, how then they will convince people, and it's contradicting that they see that people do not care, and that they only with enough knowledge and other artifice, which at the end are a minority. Even if there are 100,000 of activists, they still can overwhelm the amount of citizens in Indonesia, which is 100 of millions. And notice that the third and reply bring new ideas such as minority suddenly, when the whole reason of democracy is to listen to people's collective voice, which at the end of this majority. We pursue the growth of Indonesia to be a better place for the citizens by arming people with knowledge and great habit of political attention. We make participants of citizens is more likely to happen in our side because we make it more digestible by exposing them to the drafting process of a certain laws. And we make more awareness to the citizens by creating chance to participate. We won this debate because we never said any minority has no voice. Instead, we told you throughout the debate that that with most transparency, that no part of Indonesia, which is very diverse, to be left behind, and give opportunity to every single of them. And knowing we need a lot of time to creating lies, but to be transparent, and majority of the citizens to know what is going on in the drafting process is much better in our side of the House, and therefore I proud to propose this motion. Thank you.
I thank both the reply speakers and also all the 6 debaters for the very amazing debate. That concludes our Novice Grand Final today. Now, please do allow the judges to create our decision and discuss later. And all the panels, see you guys in the breakout room. See you guys all soon. Thank you so much, everyone.